Welcome into just a normal little stream here, actually. Something that we're going to go and start doing a little bit more often here. Obviously, for some of you regulars, you can see there's a lot of breaks going on here at 401 Games, but it's been a while since we've actually had a fire happen. So, you know what? I thought, it's been a while since you guys have seen me. Maybe it'd be nice to actually just run a stream. So, here I am. Very excited tonight. I'm sure everyone is aware of what day it is. It is NHL Draft Lottery Day, which if you just check the title, I mean, kind of gives it away, doesn't it? But, you know, I think we're in for a pretty good night overall. We got some good NHL action happening around, 7:30-ish? Who do we all got? I know Montreal is the favorite to win the draft lottery right now, which would probably be pretty crazy because Montreal's got a pretty decent young team going. Particularly, we all know about Caulfield, and everyone's been chasing after him and his young gun in our 2021-22 Upper Deck Series 1 hobby and retail boxes. But if you paired him next to a guy like Shane Wright, someone that is mostly projected to be around, what's the most apt comparison I've seen of him? Lots of guys saying that he's around that Johnny Taves sort of level, right? Like a good, solid two-way player, which is not very typical of. It's really not very typical of a young guy coming in the National Hockey League to be defensively sound. So we all saw what happened with Johnny Taves back in the day when he first broke into the league. That was 06-07, I believe. Coming out of that draft, guys like Phil Kessel came out of that draft too, if I recall correctly. But coming out of that draft, you know, he wasn't even the first overall pick in that guy. Patty Kane in that draft. Patty Kane was the year before. Everyone saw him as being like the building block for that Chicago team that was just struggling. I think at some point, like, they were only gaining about 6,000 fans a night, right? That Chicago team was really, really bad. And so it was supposed to be a team built around Patrick Kane, and they draft this kid, I believe, I think he was, 6th overall maybe? 5th or 6th overall, somewhere around there, named Johnny Taves. And Johnny Taves, his whole big thing was, well, he's got the offense, he's got the leadership, or he's got the defense, he's got the leadership. His offensive ceiling might be like 60, 70 points. And there was a thought at that time, as you know, that again, if everyone, hindsight 2020, everyone does that redraft, they probably take Johnny Taves number 1. But the value of a 70-point two-way player back then to the league was, okay, you're not in the top 3. That mentality obviously has changed. Shane Wright is definitely going to be that type of guy that if he ends up on the right team, I wouldn't say necessarily the Canadian. If he ends up on the right team, I wouldn't expect to win games very beautifully. You're not going to be like the flashiest team, but the kid's got skill, and again, defensive acumen just goes so far. You're seeing it right now too, in some of the series in the playoffs right now. One that immediately comes to mind is in terms of like a defensive struggle where it's been eking out, has actually been that Penguins Rangers series. And I'm not just saying that because the Penguins are emblazed on my sweater here. If you watch that series, the biggest difference in that, if you look at the scores, you'd be like, goaltending, no. Like, Shesterkin definitely is the more solid goalie in that series. Penguins are throwing out Louis Domingue out there, for God's sake. But the Rangers are just never able to be defensively responsible in that series. It doesn't matter, the goaltending. It's just biting them in the butt, right? Like, it has been crazy for them. That 7-2 loss the other day, 100% just team was not there in front of Shesterkin or Gorgiev. It doesn't matter how well you play there. So being stout on defense is definitely a very, very, very important thing. And I'm really excited to see what Shane Wright can do. Canadians being the favorite, yeah, like I said, Caulfield, that would be extremely interesting. Probably be a great pair of those two together. And then that would lead to Montreal having some some really, really, really scary, young guys to build around, right? But there's some other guys that are in play there too. There's some other teams that would be interesting. I know the Jackets are there, Sabres. Anyone that is actually, in the lottery. Just every team that has not made the playoffs is technically in for a shot at this. What I think would be the most interesting, though, it would be Detroit. Now, if you went to Detroit and you pair them up with Cedar, and you paired him up with, Lucas Raymond, Tyler Bertuzzi. I mean, Detroit at certain points in this season looked like they might have been in playoff contention, and then of course they kind of had that collapse. But if you remember early in the season, right, that team was actually pretty good. They were in a playoff spot, I think, for about a month and a half, 2 months, the first 2 months of the schedule, maybe. And then the wheels kind of came over and it came out from under them, and then the inexperience showed up and ended up having a mediocre year on the whole. But you can't look at the guy, Moritz Cedar looks like he's going to win the Calder. You have a potential franchise-defining defenseman. Once again, another European franchise-defining defenseman for the Detroit Red Wings, a team that has had no shortage of guys from Sweden and Russia show up and become legendary blue liners. It's funny how they always get these European defensemen that just completely go wild. They don't know how they do it. Of course, Yzerman being a guy that played with a lot of those legendary defensemen, right? Like Larionov and Lidstrom. He's probably have a pretty good eye for that right now. And the Shane Wright going to that team would also be very, very exciting. So yeah, just thought we'd pop on here, and as you can see here, we do have the 2022 and 2021, and 2020 Topps Chrome Black baseball boxes. These are a regular thing for our rips and ships. Anthony is going to get a shout out here from me because it's definitely been a box that kind of defines him. He's bought so many of these. We've seen some good things pulled out of it. Our last box we did, we finally had pulled one of the out of 10s, so that was exciting. But we still haven't had any legendary autographs out of there. Nothing too crazy. So there might still be something good in this box. So if anyone wanted to do these, you can go on 401games.ca and then just search up the Topps Chrome Black, pick the year that you want, whatever. Give me your order number, and then we'll do it that way. I'll just fulfill it, and we'll rip it on the stream. But going back to the NHL, just in general, where the series are going. I've already talked about the draft. If anyone wants to talk about the draft lottery tonight, I'm totally down. But we've got a couple other big games, right? St. Louis, Minnesota. That one's been really tight for my hockey pool. I picked a couple guys from both teams. Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Buchnevich, and Kyrou. Because you just knew that was going to be a slugfest. And it doesn't really matter if you go and you take a look at the head-to-head records. I want to say that the head-to-head record coming into this series was something like St. Louis had won around 13 of their last 14 meetups between the two franchises. But things are different in a playoff setting, right? And this is a different Minnesota team. It's definitely the most skilled, by far the most skilled offensive Minnesota team ever. I don't think that you can question it. It's a team that historically has just been nothing but trap. Remember the days of Gaborik and Fernandez and net? Those days, long gone. Now we actually have a squad that's entertaining, puts up lots of goals. Zuccarello and Kaprizov have amazing chemistry. You got some toughness and grit in that lineup too. Guys like Marcus Foligno just, able to get gritty in the corners, stand up for their teammates. You guys got up-and-comers like Boldy as well. So there's a lot to like about that Minnesota team. St. Louis, not much that you can say about St. Louis that hasn't been said. That team is a team that plays stout two-way hockey. that would actually kind of be like the perfect team. If Shane Wright could pick any team that he could go to, I think St. Louis would probably be a good pick for him because it very much that organization very much fits his play style. Very responsible on their own end, but they do also have some offensive flair. Tarasenko's resurgence. Remember that guy was supposed to get traded to start the year. They couldn't get rid of him. No one would take him, right? No one took him during the offseason. No one wanted him. You couldn't get a bag of pucks for the guy. Ends up just coming back and having a monstrous season. And probably, I would imagine, there's a good shot that he's actually just going to stay there now at this point. They let him shine, and he has. Kyrie's turned into an insane player. Buchnevich as well. Now, Buchnevich, we all know that trade, as soon as New York made it, why were you letting Buchnevich go? But in St. Louis, he's become something completely different, right? He's also another two-way hockey player. What's funny is I thought that he'd stay relatively the same as he got to St. Louis, right? More of that 60-point, 55, 60-point, like very solid, skilled defensive player. But his offense actually popped off in St. Louis. It might just be the fact that they've given him a bit more trust, put him in more tight spots, right? Put him in more positions of prominence, put him on the power play. But he's really, really come into his own offensively now. And there's that whole top line of guys, not to mention guys like Ryan O'Reilly, and the list goes on and on and on. Husso has been pretty good in net for him. So St. Louis and Minnesota, that's been a hell of a clash. I think anyone that's been following the sport would know that that was going to be a hell of a clash. And we're tied 2-2 tonight, going into game number 5. 9:30, so I'm pretty excited for that one. We'll catch that one after work for sure. Boston, Carolina starts in just like 5 minutes. That's another one too. Carolina looked at the start like they were just going to roll over them, right? Boston wasn't even there. 2 games in Carolina. Boston might as well not have shown up. They may as well have just thrown a white flag on the ice. May as well pulled the 93... a 94, sorry. Patrick Wall, just wave your hands up in the air and be like, I'm out. Because, it was a slaughter. But going back to Beantown, man, has that series really turned around? Brad Marchand, 9 points. I mean, say what you want, but the guy, he is many things. He's a rat. He's a pest. He's probably the most annoying player to play in the NHL since Sean Avery. But he's damn good. He is damn good, and he's tied with Crosby for the lead in points, and single-handedly, I think, like he's been the impetus for this back-to-back for these back-to-back wins for Boston. Now they come in. Maybe you're not a believer in momentum. I know there's a lot of people who have that argument that momentum doesn't carry from game to game, but it's got to be damn demoralizing to go up 2-0 and then just have the script completely flipped on you. I do think that there's something to that. We'll see tonight, very, very soon, if Boston has Carolina on the ropes. I think they very well might. And then, of course, I left the best game for last. I'm no Leafs fan, as you can see, but I can't deny the fact that I am currently in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, the capital of Ontario. And as many Torontonians would say, the center of the universe. And that one we can all argue about for days. But regardless, the one thing that is true about Toronto is that they love their Leafs, and that the Leafs are the most watched team in the National Hockey League. So you got a lot of hype going on here. And this game's coming back here to the Scotiabank Arena. And that series is tied 2-2. Now, I don't know. That is the most coin flip of the coin flip. I think everyone out there and all their hockey pools are are on the brink. You know that every hockey pool in this country had a bunch of Leaf homers that took nothing but Leafs and are going all in on Leafs Cup 2022. And then a bunch of people who hate the Leafs that just took a bunch of Lightning players. And whoever wins that series, I think, is going to tank a team, tank a lot of people. A lot of people are going to lose a lot of money, regardless of the outcome of that series, man. Personally, I think that you have to say Tampa gets the slight edge. It's hard to go against the back-to-back champions, but this is as scary of a challenge that they've had in the last 3 years. Do we even really need to go into how good some of the guys have looked in this series? I mean, Victor Hedman has been absolutely insane. If it wasn't for Makar, I would say that he's reasserted himself as the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. But man, Makar looked damn good through 4 games in that sweep against Nashville. But it's damn close. Like, Kucherov's shown up. Everyone that you need to show up in this series to make it good has shown up. Like, Kucherov's shown up. Stamkos hasn't really. You got surprise guys like what's his face? Colton. Obviously, Hedman. Hedman's been by far the most productive player on Tampa in this playoff. And then, of course, we haven't had great goaltending from Vasilevsky, but it's been good enough. For Toronto, the main concern that Torontonians have always had, right? The Toronto Maple Leafs fans have always had is, will the young guys show up? Are the young guys going to show up? Where is Marner? I mean, how many times did I have to hear about Mitch Marner doesn't show up for the playoffs? Right? Now, I'm sure that Toronto Maple Leafs fans would be hoping for more from Johnny T. Johnny T's been kind of invisible. Now, granted, he is kind of going into the back half of that contract. And I think it's fair to expect him to kind of decline some. But the young guys, Marner and Matthews, they're leading that team right now. It's a matter of will that be enough, right? I think Toronto probably got the worst draw, the worst reward for doing as well as they possibly could, right? Like, this Toronto team, I think it would be fair to say that this Toronto team would win a playoff series against almost any other team in the East right now. Almost any other team, I'd say that they'd be the favorite, right? If we go and we take a look, Florida, if they face Florida in some alternate universe, I think that's a toss-up. I would probably give the edge to Toronto, to be honest. Boston usually has their number, but on paper it should be Toronto. But in practice, it gets weird. Pittsburgh, even as the Penguins fan that I am, I'd say they'd beat Pittsburgh. They'd beat Washington. They'd probably have a coin flip with Carolina. But this team, like, I don't think that there's any team in hockey, right? There's no team in hockey that could face the Tampa Bay Lightning and be seen as the favorite. And it's really, really mind-blowing to kind of think that is technically what the Leafs are supposed to be. I don't think anyone expected that, and it's not playing out that way. That's as close as it gets. I do think that there is a good chance that whoever wins that series is going to make it to the Stanley Cup Final. The only way I would say that doesn't happen is if this series goes so long and is so intense that there's nothing left to give. That rarely happens, from what I can think. In all my years of watching hockey, usually a 7-game series, most teams actually kind of continue on and win the next series. I don't have the actual stats in front of me, but I just memorable playoff runs in my head in recent years. That seems to be the case where it's like a team goes through a grueling series, they come out of it, and then they catch fire, right? And the side, like, all of the Penguins series have mostly been like that. All the Penguins runs have all had that one series that kind of pushed them to the brink at some point, and then they overcame, and then maybe made short work. Like 2009. They had the grueling series, 7-game series against Ovechkin, which was a classic, and that took them to the conference final against Carolina, and that was a sweep, right? Same thing, I believe, happened. Yeah, same thing happened their second go around, the second consecutive cup that they'd won in 16-17. They had that oh, brutal double overtime game against Ottawa, Game 7. Kunitz with that lucky ass deflection goal. And then they made it through that, right? So, just all the Penguins runs in recent memory, how they all had that 7-game series. I'm trying to remember, did Tampa Bay have any? No, but Tampa had an equivalent. Like, if they haven't had a 7-game series, they certainly had an equivalent to it. I would say, like, them getting swept by Columbus 3 years ago was kind of the moment, right? The embarrassment of having the second most wins in NHL history and then just flubbing the ball like that. That almost was like their grueling 7-game series, you know? It seems to be like hockey players to me, the physical wear and tear isn't necessarily there in the playoffs. Like, it's there, but the adrenaline of the moment seems to carry a lot of these guys through. Like, how many times have you seen a team win the Stanley Cup and then be like, oh, by the way, like, I don't know, throw a random name out there. Steven Stamkos played through the Stanley Cup final with a broken pinky. You know, you would never notice it. These guys play through a lot in the playoffs. I think the idea of a 7-game series kind of leading to the defeatist teams, it sounds like wisdom conventionally, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'm only going anecdotal, but I wouldn't be surprised if the actual facts kind of bared out the idea that a lot of teams that win Stanley Cups have that one hard series, because it definitely seems like it's like almost like a prerequisite. Thanks to anyone that's come into the chat. Hope you're having a good day. We're just killing some time here. We have no breaks on slate today. We do have a couple rip and ships here, Topps Chrome Black, but I'm mostly just talking about the NHL playoffs right now. I did lower some breaks, by the way, on the website, 401games.ca. We did lower a few breaks, including our case breaks of Ultimate Collection and Premier by 10%, so if you want to check that out, get into it. That wouldn't be a bad time. Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot more ideas going on to make the breaks a little bit more consistent. So keep an eye out, because we're going to start getting pretty creative. But yeah. Yeah, no, it should be interesting. NBA playoffs too going on. Now that has been crazy too. It's interesting, right? Because you don't have your LeBron James. You don't have like, you have the Warriors in there, but the Warriors, are the Warriors necessarily a lock, right? Like, it feels like this year is just different. This year in basketball feels like the power balance is different. I'm a Celtics fan. I am optimistic. I am also very, very, very cautious. That Bucks-Celtics series has been incredible. Back and forth, back and forth. Celtics coming up just short of making the full comeback in Game 3. Made a comeback in Game 4. That series 2-2. Goes back to Beantown tomorrow. So really excited for that one. I think that, being completely unbiased, because this is also including the Bucks, I think that whoever wins that series wins the East, and I also think whoever wins that series should be the favorite to win the whole damn thing. However, there has been a lot of good basketball. Grizzlies Warriors has been pretty entertaining. It looks like the Warriors are probably going to win that one. But like I said, the Warriors aren't what they used to be. They're very, 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 very good. Very good. On paper, probably still the best team in the league. But they're not 2015 good. Right? They're not 2015 good. And that has made everything feel wide open, right? It seems like, I wouldn't say that I think the Mavericks would be able to beat them. But if the Suns make it through, and the Warriors made it through, and they face, I don't think the Suns would go out easy. And I also don't think that if the Warriors made it to the final that they would take on whoever comes out of the East. I think the East is just deeper. The East is just a different beast, in my opinion. 76ers, when they want to play, right? And when the 76ers, everything actually goes right for them. They look great. I think Doc Rivers is the one thing that's really holding them back, and I know that's usually a hot take. I understand. Doc Rivers has led so many bad playoff moments, I think it outweighs the good. Spoelstra on the Heat with Jimmy Butler, that team's always good. I think those two teams in that series should be, if you were doing the ladder, those two. I know we're going to look at the Heat and think, okay, well, technically number one seed, right? They're the number one seed, but you're talking a matter of one or two games that separated them between them and the Celtics and the Bucks. I would just say that my money would be on Celtics or Bucks over them. But regardless, if Miami somehow made it through too, even though I would rank them as the number 3 team in the East, I think that they could probably play Golden State decently even. I'd give the edge to Golden State, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Heat had pulled it off too. And that's why it's interesting. I don't think you can just pick any team. And it feels like the first time in forever. It feels like the first time in forever, and it's also interesting too because like we can all point to the Raptors winning, right? The Raptors winning as being, or the Bucks winning last year, as being like a sign that you can't. What would I say? That you can't predict, right? You can't predict who's going to win anymore. I don't think that's really true, right? For the Raptors, the expectation when they were going in outside of Toronto was very much that the Raptors are going to lose that series. There was a lot of mitigating factors, a lot of injuries that helped them out, undoubtedly. But that's the thing, is everyone expected the Warriors to make it to the finals, and they did. Same thing with the Lakers with their win. Everyone expected the Lakers to make it, and they did. The Bucks were a bit of a surprise, but also people could argue, well, COVID season, right? Things were different. Bubble, everything else. So, this is the first time where even though we can point to different champions and say, hey, no, it wasn't LeBron's team, or it wasn't Golden State that won. I feel like this is the first time where I actually believe that during the process. But Scotty Barnes won the MVP and killed the haters and justice was served. That is true. Now that's a debate, right, Braden? And good to see you, man. It's been a while. But that is the debate. That's the debate right there. Okay? I could stay here and we could have an argument about the rookie of the year in basketball all day. We could go all night, man. I could be streaming this to tomorrow. I think the thing that ultimately led to Scotty Barnes winning the Rookie of the Year, or as you would call it, the Rookie MVP, what ultimately led to that, right, is just the fact that the Raptors made it. Like the Raptors made it to the playoffs. That's the thing. That's the reason he made it, right? Now, do I think Joe Cullen's sick? Do you at least agree on that point? Scotty Barnes wins it because his team made the playoffs. I think that's the main thing. But I think that if don't kill me for this. Don't kill me for this. But I honestly believe if Cade Cunningham was a Raptor, Raptors make the playoffs, we'd be saying Cade Cunningham, Rookie of the Year. If those two were on the same team together, I would say Cade Cunningham, Rookie of the Year. But he was on the trash-ass Pistons. And so it always will look like, right, there's this... That's one of the things. See, that's actually one of the things. That's one that kind of leads to what I was just saying. Because it's... And I'm saying this as someone with a media background. But there's one thing that you know about the media. And the media decides these decisions. The media always lags about 5 years behind the actual sport trend. Sports media is always backwards thinking. Without a doubt. Right? There's all these pretentious sort of like rules that you have to follow to hand out awards. Oh, well, it was a guy like Mike Trout. Why? If we were doing purely by value, right? We go to baseball. Mike Trout should be MVP every year. Doesn't happen that way. Right? Why? Team hasn't made the playoffs in like 10 years. So, I think the last time his team made the playoffs was 2015. They lost to the Royals. So it's been, 7 years. He should win MVP every year. If his team made the playoffs, he'd win MVP every year. But media's like, no, MVP must make playoffs. Guys don't win awards unless playoffs. Or the other thing, too, how many MVPs does LeBron James have? And then how many years was he actually the best player in the league? Because there's also that idea, too, where it's like, well, if I expect the guy to be an MVP, and he does what I expect, he doesn't earn my MVP vote, which makes no sense. I'm glad to hear that. The shipping guys out in Vaughan do a good job. They're really busy, too. You should see the whole operation they have, man. Oh, frick. I am so glad to be here at the downtown location. I am so glad to be here at the downtown location. Don't have to worry about the shipping. Only thing that we worry about in the shipping part is of course, your brakes. How's my guy doing in Detroit? Do we want to talk about that? I don't know if I want to talk about that, honestly. Spencer Torkelson, I've been very, very, very excited. But that whole team cannot hit a ball if they're... Dude, if I put, like, a gun, right? If I took an AK and put it next to any batter, any hitter on the Tigers lineup and said, hit the ball or I shoot you, I would shoot the whole lineup. They cannot, like, none of them can get a hit. They cannot get a hit. Doesn't matter what's on the line. They cannot get a hit. Unfortunately, Spencer Torkelson is batting 160. He's got 3 home runs. He's got power. When he hits the ball, he hits it hard. But no one on that lineup is hitting. It is by far the most offensively inept lineup in baseball right now. And as we are speaking, they are currently getting shut out in the 7th inning. Yay. Life is pain if you're a Detroit Tigers fan. Life is pain if you're a Detroit Lions fan. I am both. What am I doing? But yeah, no. Just to go back to Scotty Barnes real quick. I think basically what ended up happening at the end of the day, I think objectively, my vote would have been Cunningham. I think Cunningham's the best rookie in that class. Best statistically, best analytically, I think he's just the best. Scotty Barnes is right there. I think in some analytics, Barnes was better. If memory serves. I would have given it to Cade. However, sticking with your team makes it worth it, right? But, at what point is it masochism? That is my question that I always have to ask. At what point is it loyalty, and at what point is it stupidity? Because my dad was a Chiefs fan. I was 5 years old. I had a Kansas City Chiefs helmet. My dad would get me mad at him, try and get me to play with Priest Holmes and the Kansas City Chiefs, Trent Green, all these guys, idolized Derek Thomas and how great of a linebacker he is. And I sat there and Lion is blue. Like, that was my team. Oh, man. The decisions. I could have just been born into the Chiefs. I'd celebrate a Super Bowl. I'd watch Patrick Mahomes and cheer. Instead, I watched Jared Goff. Granted, I'll say this. I think Jared Goff isn't as bad as a lot of people make him out to be. We gave him nothing last year. If he is awful this year, then they have to move on. But he's got weapons now, so let's see if we get 2018 Jared Goff back. Yeah, I know you're a Wild fan, but the Wild haven't been consistently awful. But the Wild, in a way, actually are more... It's that, you know what? It might be worse. Because I don't have expectations, right? I'm a Detroit Lions fan. I had expectations for the Tigers. I had expectations for the Tigers. I'm an idiot for having expectations for the Tigers. The Tigers had expectations on themselves going into this year. They were stupid for doing that. They should never put expectations on themselves. They're not good. So that's my fault. But I don't have expectations for the Lions. So I go into my Lions games like, hey, we traded Matthew Stafford away. We got Jared Goff. We have no wide receivers. This year we will have wide receivers. But last year, you could not pick a wide receiver outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown and say, hey, that guy should even be on a practice squad. Let alone on like the actual football field. Like, we were running guys that would get cut from practice squads. I'm not even exaggerating that. Like, we're getting practice squad players from other teams and putting this in, hey, you play football for us now. You're wide receiver too. Go run. Swift is amazing. But, you know, long and short, at least I don't have expectations. So the pain is just being in the state of being a Lions fan. But I guess for being a Minnesota Wild fan, your team does make the playoffs. They just do nothing. And is that worse? It might be. It might be. But I'll let you know. Let you know this. So, I'm doing my hockey pool for the first time since the pandemic started. And, hockey pool, I participated in 4 of these. I finished, it's usually 10 people. I've finished first twice, second twice, right? So I've always made my money back plus more. And part of it, too, is picking our Stanley Cup winner. And I've been pretty good about that. I picked the majority of those years, I've picked the Stanley Cup winner correctly. I predicted the Penguins on their back-to-back correctly. I picked St. Louis for theirs. So the only one that I got wrong was the last one. I didn't predict Tampa because I thought Tampa would crap again. But the team I picked this year to win the Stanley Cup was the Minnesota Wild. We'll see if my gamble is correct. We'll see if you're a very happy guy. But I have had really good consistency. 3 of my last 4 attempts, I've picked the right team. And of course, if you're picking the team, if you're picking your team, you're also picking the players from that team. So I picked up Kaprizov and I picked up Zuccarello. They haven't done me too wrong. I'm currently in first place right now because I also ended up getting Crosby and Kucherov and a bunch of other guys. And I'm kind of sitting there like, whoa, I got Crosby, Kucherov, Kaprizov, Kyrou, Buchnevich, Zuccarello. Okay. I'm cool with this. But yeah, no, so I know, like, I came in thinking that the first series, and I was talking about it earlier before you got in, the first series I knew was going to be really, really tough for the Wild, because they've never historically played St. Louis very well. But it's kind of like positioned, right? You know, well, there's a lot of Leafs fans, and a lot of Leafs fans took, like, second string sort of guys, right? A lot of, like, third line Leafs, second line Leafs. You know how it is. I want to see who else was on my team. Yeah, Klingberg, Kyrou, Buchnevich, Malkin, Crosby, Letang, Marchand, Kucherov, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Yossi, who is now out, but whatever, and Vasilevsky in net. Yeah. Whenever you're whenever you're in a hockey pool with a bunch of Canadians, you can almost always guarantee that you're going to get a lot of good players that are not on Canadian teams because everyone thinks that Canada's going to win the cup. It's fine, but I would never vote with my heart to win for my wallet. So that's just the way that it is. I think we are getting close to wrapping it up, but I just wanted to get on. I'll be doing this a couple times, regardless of whether there's breaks filmed. But make sure to check out 401games.ca. We also got the link in the description below, directly to the break, so please check it out. Lots of good stuff there. Yeah, I'm actually just about to take off, but I really, really was happy to see you, Braden. So have a great day, man. A great night. So I'll be back on here at least a couple days a week to at least be here, be accessible to you guys as we wait for more breaks to be able to fill up. May as well sit down, have a little bit of a chat, and keep the community active, right? So that'll do it for me. Thank you for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. 401games.ca to go in for all of your sports card needs, be it breaks or boxes. And we'll see you next time. Take care.